Hello, welcome to Oregon Horse Council's Oregon Horse Life podcast. My name is Brandy Ebner, the Executive Director of Oregon Horse Council, and I'm excited to be joined today by Ed Hamilton with Country Financial Insurance. Hi, Ed.
Hey, how are you doing, Brandy?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again. Ed was a former board member of ours and active in a lot of OHC programming, so I'm excited to see his face here.
Yeah, long time no see.
Yeah. So Ed works, as I mentioned, with Country Financial, and one of the things he specializes in is life insurance. And we've had many conversations. Ed and I've sat in booths all over the Northwest at horse expos and things, talking with folks. And it seems like the topic of life insurance comes up, but people aren't super familiar with, can I afford it? What exactly does it mean? Do I even need it? And so we wanted to learn a little bit more about life insurance and the aspects around it. So Ed, can you tell us, I know there's a couple different types. What is life insurance and what are the types of them?
So life insurance is a vehicle to be able to provide a legacy for your family or for loved ones. There's a whole bunch of different types nowadays, but the main three types is permanent whole life, term insurance, and universal whole life. And each of them play different roles in a legacy plan. So legacy being, how do I leave something to my children? How do I leave something to my wife or husband or significant other or cat, whatever the case may be.
And so you're saying mostly you need life insurance because you want to plan for those that you love after your passing. So nobody wants to think about this. I mean, I got life insurance, I think my first policy, I was in my mid-20s. And people kept telling me, you're too young to think about this. It's just so morbid to think about it. And I'm like, but I wanted to plan to know that my future children and my husband were going to be taken care of if, God forbid, I got hit on the highway or something. There's too many things every day that could happen. So in the horse world, I think a lot of it comes around to, you've got a lot of things that you care about and you might take care of and a loved one is going to have to deal with. So do you see a lot of equestrians asking for life insurance, or do you see any common myths around equestrians thinking they don't need it?
So one of the problems that everybody has, and specifically the equestrian community, is why do I need life insurance? I have to live for right now. Mm-hmm. And I truly get that. Back on your point, the younger you are, the cheaper the life insurance is, regardless of what kind you get. So it's always good to plan ahead for you or your family because their rates are going to be different based on your age. And so if you start them as a kid, like how we have your kids on life insurance, because it was incredibly cheap at that point. But in the equestrian world, there's not a lot of ask for it, and it's always interesting to me because the need is so great within the equestrian world. You spend $100,000 on a hunter jumper, you spend millions of dollars.
70,000 a horse trailer.
$1,000 on the trainer, the boarding facility, making sure that horse is seen by the vet constantly. You have a good working relationship with all these different aspects, and there's money involved in all of that. And when you die, because it's a given, you're going to be born and you're going to die. Those are the two things that you can guarantee. When you die, what happens to that horse? What happens to the care and feeding of that horse? Who is going to take care of that animal? What kind of plan do you have in place for the legacy for that horse? Because you and I both know we have many friends who are retired, widowed women who have finally been able to achieve their passion of having that specific horse in their life, and they don't have kids. Or their kids are long gone and they don't think about them in this respect. When that person passes away, that very same day that person passes away, that horse still needs to be fed. That horse still needs to be groomed. This horse still needs to be seen by the vet. The horse still needs to, if you're boarding the horse, still needs to be kept in their boarding facility. Regardless of what happens to the horse after, are you going to sell it? Do you have that in your will to sell it? All these different thoughts that you have on a daily basis about your horse stop the moment you die. So what do you have in place for that? If you don't have a will in place, if you don't have a trust that's working to take care of these things, a living trust to take care of all these things, you're leaving those answers to people who don't necessarily have any clue as to what you would have wanted for them, who may not be comfortable with a horse. I know a lot of people whose children are fearful of the horses, and we all know that that's silly, but it is true. People have experiences that we can't overcome. So what happens to that horse? You're going to leave it in the hands of someone who doesn't have the same passion for you. So life insurance is great for providing the funding to make sure that that horse's care continues. Or let's say it's a breeding animal. So you have a breeding facility going on. Do you have life insurance to protect those horses when you pass away? Do you have it for your equine business as you pass away? What do you have in place for all of those things? And life insurance is the one thing that can do multiple things, both living and in death. So I don't get a lot of questions about it because I don't think people think about what happens tomorrow, because we're all kind of buried in today. But my job is to make sure you remember about tomorrow and how you affect that.
Right. Those are excellent points. I think you're right that folks, I hear from people, wow, especially right now, money is tight enough. I'm just trying to keep a roof over my head and my horse is taken care of. So, I don't need to add another bill. But I also hear from a lot of folks around, well, I don't have any kids and I'm not married. So why do I need life insurance? And then I get the calls from the niece or the cousin that lives in the city, and their aunt just passed away and had a horse and they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Because they can't take care of it. And so they're asking me, where can I dump this horse, basically? So now your beloved horse that you might have, raised for 20 years and competed with and, won with and, or just, loved because it's your family member, because us horse people, our horses are family to us. And for a lot of folks I talk with, their horses are like their kids. And now, do you really want to know that after your passing, that horse got dumped at a rescue? And that's not helping any of our rescues out to get those calls either, because some of these are fantastic horses. But if you don't have the plan, as you said, the life insurance set up so that that niece in the city can then financially afford to take care of this horse with your wishes. I don't think people think about that, because it's just not, nobody wants to think about their passing. But if you want to take care of those around you, 4 and 2-legged, you've got to. So I know the one thing we touched on is cost. So you mentioned, the younger you are, the better off you are from the cost of insurance. And why is that? Is it because of health or just chances or?
So life insurance is based on 3 aspects of your life. One is the age in which you are purchasing your life insurance, because the likelihood of a 10-year-old living to be beyond the life of the term policy is probably really good. I mean, it's a 95% chance that child will live past the term of their life insurance. If they have whole life insurance, the cash value that builds up inside that policy for whole life, there's a second account that's specifically for using the money that you have put towards your premium to extend the policy beyond the years of paying premium, and I'll get into that in a minute. But so the likelihood of that same child living beyond 89 if it's a female or 84 if it's a male are really pretty good. So the premiums are low because of that. Second thing is they look at the health of the individual, what disease states may they have that would preclude them from having a long life. And usually children are healthy. They don't have those things on a general basis. You don't have a heart attack because of poor living habits. You don't have stroke because of poor living habits. You don't have diseases that are going to shorten your lifetime. So health comes into play with that. That's why as you age into your adult years, the moment you have a health issue is the moment that you probably need life insurance, and it's the one time in your life that you can't get it. So, so there's that. And then the third thing that drives rates with life insurance, be it whole term or universal, is the payouts in that company. So every company sells all the different kinds of life insurance. Every company has a different premium on that, and it's because of their payout of that. So the claims experience with any company will dictate, if they have a small base of business, then any claim is going to be affected to them. If they have a large base of business, then they can absorb some of those losses. much easier. So those are the three things that drive premium. But by and large, the younger you are, the cheaper, the least expensive that insurance is. And it's simply because of the rule of how long you're going to live.
Mm-hmm. So you were mentioning health. If you get a policy when you're healthy and then a health scare happens, or you find out you've got a disease that is potentially going to shorten your lifespan, once you've already got a policy, it's your policy. So they're not,
right.
You're not going to lose it or have the premiums go up because you're already invested in it.
Right, exactly. And that's why I always push people to buy children life insurance, not so that you can plan on your child dying, because you want to plan on your child living, but having something happen in between that makes them uneligible for life insurance. So, you know, you take a teenager who's in high school and getting ready to go to college, put a whole life policy on that child, so that no matter what happens down the road, they will always have some type of life insurance to live with. And it can be small, it can be large, whatever the case may be, but a large policy is still just as inexpensive as a small policy at that point. Because of their age. But, you know, I deal with people a lot. My best story about that is that I had a guy who was every month, hey, let's put some life insurance on me, but can we wait till next month? It took 2 years for him to finally say, let's go ahead and put it on. And the reason is because he just went to the doctor and found out that he had to have surgery for a cancer tumor. Yeah. So I'm like, you do realize that you now have lost any ability for the next 10 years, should you live through the cancer treatment, to ever get a life insurance policy, because you waited until after you were sick when you really realized that you needed it. So let's say that you have a teenager who is a football star. Back in the day when we used to play football, remember? Before the pandemic?
Back when there were in-person sports?
And they're doing a good job. You put a $100,000 life insurance policy for whatever reason it fit into your budget. And then he goes to college and he has an accident on the football field that renders him unable to ever do any sports again because he's now physically damaged for whatever reason. That child probably will never be able to get insurance again, but he already has a plan in place that will never be taken away as long as the premiums are paid. So it's the craziest thing, the things people don't want to think about. It's my job to make sure you think about them, and to understand that life insurance there's a purpose beyond just the fact that it's going to leave a legacy. You're helping to secure a future for your children and for you by placing a policy when you can afford it and move forward.
Yeah. So talking about affording it, of course, the prices are all over the board based on your specific experience. Correct. What is kind of a rough idea? You know, I think people think insurance and they instantly go to, oh gosh, it's got to be expensive. You talk $100,000 policy, you know, is that going to cost me $400 a month? What's that going to be?
So we're going to take term life and whole life and compare them. So a 20-year-old that has no pre-existing conditions, and it is in fairly decent shape, would buy a $500,000 term policy for about $20 a month, maybe, if not less. That same whole life policy will be about $80 a month. And if you put a 30-year plan for both of those, because you can, in fact, do permanent whole life where you stop paying after a point, the cash value continues to pay for that policy, but you stop after a certain period of time if you want to set it up. So we'll set up both of these the same way. At the end of 30 years, that 20-year-old that was paying $20 a month has still paid $20 a month for the 30 years. And at the end of that 30 years, that 20-year-old's now 50 years old, and he wants to renew it, he's probably going to pay $200 a month for that on renewal, because he's still old, he's still young, he still has work years in front of him, so he wants to continue the policy. He's going to be paying an enormous amount for that same coverage. That same policy in whole life would be about $144 a month for the rest of his life.
And would that be starting at around that $20 mark and then going up after a certain amount of time, or would that be $140 for the whole life?
So when you buy permanent whole life insurance, whatever your premium is at the beginning is the premium that you pay at the end as well. It's a guaranteed level premium and a face value that can increase based on the insurance that it's put in on. For whole life, you tend to, if the company does well, then they provide dividends on the company because the company has done well, and provides a dividend to each of those investors, owners of life insurance policy. And they pay it out yearly, quarterly. It's up to the company, and they don't have to, but they generally do pay a dividend. That dividend basically buys more life insurance for you. So at the end of that 30 years, your $500,000 policy may be $630,000 now, and you did nothing, and you've continued to grow the face value while still keeping your premium the same throughout your life. And if you did a 30-year paid in full whole life policy, at the end of those 30 years, you're no longer paying anything, and that policy remains in place until you die, and it will continue to grow until you die.
Okay, wonderful. Well, this has been great information, very informative, and I'm hoping that a lot of our folks who watch this, it gets them thinking a little bit about how they would like to set things up for their life. How can they get a hold of you? You do, Country Financial has much more than just life insurance. So you can insure their home, whole entire ranch, you name it. You can probably insure it for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my office specifically, we take a very high level look at your life, and we provide health insurance through the different marketplaces. We provide property and casualty for your home and your auto. We're one of the best in the state of Oregon. We're the #1 farm insurer because of our farm policies that are the best, of course. I'm going to say that. But farm and ranch, we do a really good job in. And then we also want to help you get to that retirement life. So we have multiple plans in place that can help you with that, including the life insurance, to make sure that you leave a legacy. In the farm world, you all know that you have 3 kids and only one of them wants to run the farm when you die. So what are you going to do with the other 2? You can't leave all of the farm to one. So we have legacy plans that take a look at that to see if you can do it equitably amongst all 3 while still allowing the one to keep the farm and the other 2 not to have to. And then retirement planning, we do it all.
Yeah. And I always tell people, probably one of the most requested things we get in Oregon Horse Council is questions about insurance. People are always coming to us. And unfortunately, it's typically after they trusted an insurance agent who really did not know anything about farm, ranch, or equestrian life, who, promised them that their huge barn could be considered an outbuilding on their homeowner's policy. And then, unfortunately, an incident happens. And they realize they didn't have the coverage they thought they had. And so I always tell people, find a trusted, true farm and ranch insurance agent. If your agent can't understand the terms you're saying, if they don't know the difference between a mini and a thoroughbred, then maybe look for another agent, because you want to make sure they understand your lifestyle well enough to insure you properly. And it might mean more money. It might cost more than what your average agent who doesn't know the difference would charge you. But don't you want that protection? If you're going to be paying, you want to be paying for what's going to take care of you and yours.
Right, exactly. At the end of the day, you want your insurance to be there for you when you need it. And if premium is your driving force, then make sure you're putting that premium plus more in a savings account for when the insurance doesn't pay what you needed it to pay.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was going to say, how could someone get a hold of you to ask more questions and learn more?
So you can always find me on social media, because that's where I hang out. Ed Hamilton Insurance is the ID on Facebook and on Twitter. You can call my office. 360-984-1975 is my direct line into my office. You can call 360-258-2690. You'll probably talk to my assistants, and that's okay. They know how to get a hold of me too. And you can email me at ed.hamilton@countryfinancial.com. By all means, ask any questions you need to. I've never been opposed to answering a question when it comes to the equine world, especially. So.
And perfect. And of course, all of Ed's basic contact information can be found at OregonHorseCouncil.com in our directory as well. It links straight to him, or you can ask if you've got any questions. But thank you so much, Ed, for sharing all this information. I really hope that it helps answer some questions and gets some of our folks out there thinking about what to do when the unexpected happens. Because like you said, we're all going to be born and we're all going to die one day. And it's not fun to think about, but you want to prepare to make sure that the loved ones around you, the 2-legged and 4-legged ones, are well taken care of. So Absolutely. Thank you so much for your expertise and time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And it's always good to see you, Brandy.
I know we don't get to see each other in person, but this is
I
something.
know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.